Hey everyone, welcome back to the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A. That's the show where you send me a filmmaking question and I try to answer it. If you like your question read on the show, please send me an email to thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. That's your best chance you have of getting your question read on the show. Or you can leave a comment below, or you can send me a message on Twitter at Frugal Filmmaker. So my video last week was called 5 Frugal Turkeys, and while this was kind of a nod to Thanksgiving, it was also kind of an expose, if you will, of some videos that I'd made in the past that I really wasn't too happy with now that I look back on them. And so I explained why I thought these videos were turkeys and also what I learned from them so I could share that information with you so you wouldn't make the same mistakes if you were doing something similar, like on a YouTube channel. Okay, let's answer some questions. Our first one comes from email from frequent contributor Ray Rack, who says, do you use a teleprompter for any part of your Q&A videos? Well, the answer to that question is no, and even though I've built a teleprompter in the past and made a pretty decent video about how you can attach one or create one for the Frugal Cage, I don't use the teleprompter for this show for this reason. I am so close to the camera, it's about probably 4 feet away from me right now, that if I put a teleprompter on it, and this was completely noticeable in the video I made about using a teleprompter, you could see my eyes darting back and forth as I was reading the reflected text. This is very distracting, and as a result, I really can't use a teleprompter at this range. Now, if you've ever been in a TV news studio where they use teleprompters all the time, the prompters are far enough away from the talent that their eyes don't have to dart back and forth to read the text. So the only solution in my situation would be to make the text smaller, but that would mean that I might not be able to read it. But now I'm kind of back to doing kind of take after take and sort of improvising, because even though I kind of base my ideas on an outline, it does take me a long time to get things on camera. If I had a teleprompter setup that would allow me to read without having my eyes dart back and forth, I would definitely use it because they are very, very helpful. However, that eye darting is so distracting that I really can't see using one in the future until I have maybe a bigger studio, which will be who knows when. Okay, next up we have a question from Eric, who says, after watching your camera lens bands video, I was curious to know which Minolta lenses you showed in that video besides the 50mm, and which one of these lenses you use the most while shooting. Now Eric's talking about a video I made where I took silicone wristbands and put them around camera lenses like this one right here, and this just allowed me to more easily put a focus gear on these lenses because the diameter was so small that I needed some kind of a buffer between the lens and the focus gear, and this works really well. Also helps me to identify the different lenses because I use different colors. The silicone bands are really cheap. Check out that video, follow the YouTube card if you're curious. Now these are lenses, these are Minolta lenses that I've adapted to my Sony camera using a Minolta to Sony E-mount adapter. They're really cheap, get them on eBay for about $10. I'll leave a link below if you're curious. But I've got several lenses mentioned in the video. This is a 35mm. The one I'm shooting with now is a 28mm, and then I had a 50mm right here, and I believe these are all the ones I specifically mentioned in the video. And then I had 2 others that I did not talk about very much. This was one of them. This is a Minolta 20mm right here. Notice it doesn't have a band on it because I never really have to pull focus with this lens, so I don't have a band on it. It's pretty obvious what it is to me. This is a great lens. It's also the most expensive lens I own because any focal length that wide is not going to be cheap, and this wasn't. It was about $275 on eBay. The good news was that this is in mint condition. It was just an excellent condition. It's all metal. I really like it. When I need a wide angle lens, I go to this one. It's great. It's also f2.8, so it's got decent speed. So that's this lens. The other lens was the Russian Helios 44. And while I like this lens for still camera shooting, I don't really like it for video all that much because even though it has a smooth aperture on it, the lens breathing on this is awful. When you're changing direction to rack focus, the lenses move around a lot, and you can really see it in the picture. Cinema lenses that are designed to rack focus usually have a very minimal lens breathing, but this is just really dramatic, so I really don't like using this lens for video. Now, as far as to answer the question, which lenses do I use the most, it would definitely be the package of the 50mm, the 35mm, and the 28mm. Those are primes, or what I use the most. Now notice I don't have any longer focal lengths. The 85mm is something I've always wanted, but any lens that's an 85mm focal length tends to be more expensive. The least expensive one I've seen is the Jupiter 8, which is the Russian model. You can find that on eBay usually like for $125, $150. Still expensive, but I'm also pretty sure it's going to have horrible lens breathing like the Helios, so I'm not sure I want to get that one. I'd really like to get a Minolta one, but those are about $400. I don't know if I'll get one. So what I've resorted to is using this is a Minolta Celtic 135mm, so it's the next focal length up in the Minolta line. And it's a really long lens. This is a prime. It's fairly fast at 2.8. It's also big and heavy. But these are really inexpensive. You can get these for $30 to $50, I believe. As you can, a lot of these other lenses, I don't think any of them, with the exception of probably the 35 millimeter, go above $50. So I would recommend, if you're going to do something like this with Minoltas, if you want an inexpensive lens package, I would say pick up the 28, pick up the 35, and pick up the 50. And there's various, kinds of these focal lengths on the Minolta line. I like the Rokkor X. Check the link below for the Rokkor Files. It's a really good reference point for Minolta Rokkor lenses. So that's what I would go with. Those are the ones I use the most, and I keep going back to them, so I think I will keep using them. Okay, Alex says, I've been getting lots of extra rig parts per your suggestions. Do you recommend an easy way to store them? Definitely. The first thing I would do if you want to store a lot of this extra stuff is head to your big box retailer and go to the sporting goods section where you can look at all the fishing tackle boxes. Those are great for storing camera rig parts in. The smallest ones would be something like this. This is just kind of a generic fishing lure organizer. It's clear plastic. It has dividers in it that you can move around. It has these great locking clasps so that you can open and close them, and it's pretty secure, and you can just throw this in a bigger crate if you're carrying other stuff to set. Really, really awesome. If you want something bigger than this to store a lot of stuff, you can always go for the bigger tackle boxes. Those are great. Some of them are huge. They open up into various tiers. And just search that section. You'll find all kinds of stuff that'll do exactly what you're looking for. Now, if you're looking for something a little bigger, maybe to carry camera rigs in, you can always go to the hardware section. And I have a toolbox that I use to carry the Frugal cage in, along with some lenses that I've got protected with some soft drink koozies or beer koozies. And all I did was I just found a toolbox that would fit my rig, and I just pulled out that upper tray and kind of tossed it. But it's perfect because it has a handle on top, locking clasp, so I can easily carry it to set or load it in a car or whatever. It's great. I've seen other people use, back to sporting goods, using things like pistol cases to carry like microphones or wireless mic stuff or just anything. I mean, if you just look around those departments, you'll find cases of all different kinds. Ammo boxes are also good. All kinds of stuff. I'd love to hear in the comments section what other people use to organize their various filmmaking parts that are small to help transport them around, because there's a lot of great ideas out there, and these are just a few, in my opinion. Okay, on to YouTube comments, and this one comes from Anton Arenko, who says, what is the best way to keep continuity as much as possible on set? Now, if you don't know what continuity is when you want to maintain a continuous image from shot to shot on whatever it is. For example, if you have a character with a blue tie in one shot, when you cut to the next shot, they should be wearing the same blue tie in the same position, same style, etc. And you may have seen continuity errors, as they're called, all over the place in Hollywood films, because this happens all the time. It's definitely a big, important job because it's distracting. If you see a continuity error, you may snicker, but at the same time, you are completely dropping out of the film while you notice that continuity error. You're thinking, oh, it reminds you that it's a movie when you see a continuity error. So you don't want to have those. And usually in Hollywood, they'll have a continuity person whose job it is to take pictures and make notes, and to make sure that when you have to do a pickup shot or go to back to that scene, that the same things line up, whether it's costuming or props or, this chair was over here or whatever. It's their job to make sure that they can give that information to the set dresser or the costumer or whomever so that those things match again. If you don't have a continuity person, you might have a script supervisor, whose job is typically also to watch continuities. They follow along on the script and make notes. Sometimes they will take pictures as well. I highly recommend you don't give yourself this job if you're the director, writer, editor, etc., because it's something that will often get overlooked on set, and it will haunt you later. So give somebody else that job so that they can make sure that those things are kept track of, and that there's some kind of a record. At the very, very least, I would say take a cell phone picture of everybody in the scene and then the set itself for that scene, so that if you have any important props or whatever, you can put them in the same place, because you'll have continuity errors if you don't keep track of this stuff. And the more props and more costumes and more intricate your production design is, the more this will be a problem. So don't ignore it. Finally, we have Seth Love, who asks, have you ever made a crash mat for stunts? Yes, I did have a crash mat for Collection Day, my thesis film, and I actually had a couple of stunts, light stunts in that movie, where I had one actress who was tackled by a soldier and another one who was falling backwards while shooting. And both those times I had the characters landing on something soft, because obviously I didn't want them to get hurt, which, by the way, should be your number one concern on your movie set, is to always keep everybody safe. You don't want to hurt anybody on a micro-budget film because, number one, you probably don't have insurance to cover that kind of thing. And number two, you don't want to gain a reputation of being a dangerous director, because nobody will ever come to work on your movie ever again. If you keep the people that are working on a set that you have injured someone on, I guarantee you the next film you make, you won't have anybody working on it, because no one wants to get hurt. No one's being paid. and you want to create the best experience possible. And chances are a lot of these people have bought into your vision. You sold them on what you want to do, and they want to do stunts typically. Actors will want to do their own stunts. So you need to make sure they're as safe as possible. When you are doing this kind of thing, and you probably don't have a stunt coordinator to train your actors on how to fall and everything, it's going to fall upon you, no pun intended, sorry, to teach them this stuff, how to fall and how you want them to fall. But you got to make sure that it's safe. Make sure that you're not showing them land on the pavement. You're showing them just out of camera range landing so they can land on something soft, or you crop the frame or whatever. Don't make it dangerous for them. Keep it safe, but make it look good. And I realize that's a challenge, but you don't want to hurt anybody, definitely. So make your crash mat, get a mattress that's clean. That's important. You don't want anybody landing on an old disgusting mattress. Get pillows, get blankets, make it as soft as possible. Remember, make sure you're not slapping the stuff together at the last second, because you want people to be safe. You don't want them to get hurt. You want them to work on your movies again. You want to have a good reputation. So take care of your actors, plan your stunts, do a good job. Don't be crazy. Don't do anything stupid that's going to get anybody hurt or injured, because their well-being is more important than your movie. Okay, that's all the questions we have this week. I'd like to thank everyone who wrote in. They're really good questions as always. And please, if you'd like to have your question read on the show, please send me an email to thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer it. Or you can comment below, or you can send me a message on Twitter @FrugalFilmmaker. Now, we should have another Frugal Filmmaker video this week and then another Q&A on Monday, so we'll see you then.